Here is a simple cycle of fifths exercise that I've written out using Impro-Visor. Since this goes around the entire cycle in 6 bars, hence the title, Around the Cycle in 6 Bars, it uses 2 different chord patterns, and in order to go around the cycle, each chord, each measure progresses through 2 keys. So effectively, each time you do a measure, you're going down a whole step in the cycle, or two cyclic steps. To begin with, we're working with dominant chords here, and so the first chord we'll start with is G7, which is the 5th of the key of C, and we're not going to play the tonic of the chord, but rather the upper 3 notes of the chord, which form a diminished triad. And then that's followed by a non-chord tone, which is the raised 5th of the chord, for the purposes of taking us to the next chord, the 3rd of the next chord, which does play all of the chord tones in the order of 3, 5, 1, 7. That 7, in turn, takes us grammatically down a half step to the 3rd of the next chord, which begins the cycle again. So I'm going to play this for you, and then at the end of the video I will show you how this can be constructed using Impro-Visor, Improvisation Advisor. So let's hear the first part of the cycle here. So we've got it on the repeat mode. And another thing to notice is that when we get to the end of the 6 bars, we have a C, which is a chromatic approach to B, although we have to raise it up an octave because we don't want to keep descending forever. So if we play the entire 6 bars and listen to it how it repeats. So you can keep practicing that as a mental exercise, and also it's a pretty good fingering exercise for lots of different instruments. Now, the reason that there is a second set of 6 is the following. Here, the G7 is only exercised in the first of the 2 patterns. So this pattern is 1, and this is a different pattern. In the second set, the G7 is exercised in the second pattern. So every key that was exercised up here in the first pattern is exercised down here in the second set in the second pattern, and vice versa. And that gives us an evening out of the coverage of the keys, so that we don't learn any one pattern for a key. Let's hear how that sounds. So obviously the sound is very similar, but there's a half step of difference. Now, for the next part, I'm going to show you how you can construct this and other similar exercises very quickly using Improvisation Advisor. So let's erase all but the first pattern here. So I'm going to use Control X to erase all the things in the selection. And what I'll do is copy the first pattern. So using Control C, I'm copying both the melody and the chords together. And then I move to the first slot in the next measure, and I'm going to paste using Control V. That will paste those chords. And then I'm going to use Control D twice to lower those down. Each time we press Control D, it's a half step of lowering. So now we have 2 of the measures in our exercise. And let's go to one more measure and paste that first pattern a second time. And now we're going to lower it twice. So a total of four half steps. And that gives us halfway around the cycle then with 3 bars. Now we'll take that 3 bars and copy that whole thing and then paste it below and bring it down Let's see, how many steps are we going to need? Think about 6. Okay, so now we've got our exercise there completed, modulo some possible touch-ups um, with the enharmonics, which we'll address momentarily. Let's then get the second set by copying that whole thing. We'll bring it down here, paste it in, and then lower the whole thing a half step. Okay, so now our exercises are complete, except we might want to do some touch-ups of the enharmonics in various places. So here, to avoid changing accidentals too much, and definitely to avoid double accidentals, I'm going to do some touch-ups, which hopefully will be obvious what the methodology is. So here, everything is looking pretty normal. Till we get to this B, we want to make those into sharps. So I'm just using spacebar to change those selected notes. And then here we want a C sharp. Here we want a F sharp instead of a G flat. Okay, and I think that brings that into pretty good shape. Then I'm going down to the second line. Here we have a flat key, a sharp key, so we'll make these into sharps by selecting them and hitting the space bar. Make this a G sharp, make this a C sharp, F sharp, there we'll make that an F sharp so we don't have this extra accidental. Okay, I think that's it. So let's play the whole thing once more to make sure it sounds good.